Hi guys, GiJoe here. Welcome back to the bunker here in Atlanta, Georgia. And today we're going to continue on with our Midway customization here. The HBG game Midway, Battle of Midway. I'm dealing with the customization of the Japanese Air Force or naval plane. So you may or may not know that if you're familiar with the game Midway, you'll know that, hold on, let me get one thing here. Sorry, I should have been better prepared. I should have not gone live. On the game Midway, the carriers for each nation are determined by different colors. So, let's see here. So for instance, I'll look at the card right here. On Midway, you have, I think they use orange chips to designate or denote the planes coming from the Akagi, maybe red from the Kaga, yellow from the Soryu, brown, etc., purple from the Zuiho. And as I said in my other Midway video, I didn't want all these colors, although HBG did a great job of coming up with a way to identify what chips and planes go with what carrier, because that's important. You have to keep them apart. But I wanted it to be a little bit more historic, and I wanted to not have all these different colors on my table. So instead, what I did was I spray painted all of the chips. So like these chips, hey Moose, what's going on? So instead, I sprayed all of these in light gray. So incidentally, it's the same color paint that I got and used for my Japanese planes, which I still have to put decals on them. But because essentially what I wanted to happen is I wanted these chips to resemble actual planes, even though they're not. So yeah, I didn't want to have like a gray zero or vowel here sitting on top of purple or red or orange chips. I just didn't think that would look good. So all these have been painted the Japanese ash gray. I actually used IJN paint, Tamiya. And I'll get to, actually, let me go grab those paints right now. Sorry, I know this is live. All right, back. Sorry, bad planning. But yeah, so this is what I used. I used the light gray for the IJN, and that's what I used to paint these chips along with the planes. Because in the Midway game, essentially what happens is you have planes, like in Axis and Allies, you will have a plane sitting on top of chips, perhaps, or infantry. And what that usually means is, like, let's say if you have 4 chips, you will have 4 chips plus a plane would be 5 units. Well, Midway game does it differently. The piece sitting on top of the chips is just eye candy. So like if you have 4 chips with a fighter, a 0 sitting on top, that's still 4 zeros. This just denotes what kind of plane it is. So, so that's kind of how Midway works as far as their, excuse me, designation of their Air Force, both for the United States and for Japan. But as I was saying, I didn't want colored chips, so I painted them all gray. And what I'm doing now is, once I painted them gray, I had to figure out how am I going to designate what chips go with what carrier, because you have to keep those apart, because you have to know that these planes from the Akagi came from the Akagi because they have to land on the Akagi unless there's nowhere else to land, etc. So incidentally, I did a little research, and I'll show you over here. And the Japanese did have a designation and a way to determine them. And it is right here. I found this online. This is actually a picture. This is a great research. But essentially what you had was you had carrier divisions with Japan. So carrier division 1 was designated A. So carrier division 1, the tail would have an A on it. If it had an A Roman numeral 1 red stripe, that was the Akagi. If it had an A Roman numeral 2, it was the Kaga and had 2 red stripes on the fuselage, which I'll show you that in a minute. Carrier division 2 was notated with a B on the tail. A B Roman numeral 1 was the Soryu. B Roman numeral 2 was the Hiryu. But on the fuselage, the stripes were blue. Okay, and then carrier division 3, I'm not going to read all this, but the Zuiho is used in this game, and so that was carrier division 3, and it was denoted on the tail with a C and Roman numeral 2. So here on this page, you can see the different identifications, which I'll talk about this in a minute, but I just want to give you an example of what it might look like. So this, just by looking at the stripes and the tail, I can tell, obviously there's zeros, but watch. A is carrier division 1, 2, this is the Kaga, and then let's talk about the last 3 numbers. So if we look at the last 3 numbers, here it tells you that the first number, the first digit, told you the aircraft type. If it was a 1, it was a fighting. If it was 2, it was of a dive bomber. 3, a horizontal bomber. Horizontal bomber or a torpedo bomber. Okay? And then the second and the third digit would just be the individual aircraft number. All right? So if I go back to this picture, what this tells me is carrier division A, the Kaga, fighter plane 9. So that is how the Japanese designated their aircraft from the different planes. So what I've done is I've tried to incorporate that as best as possible. Now, these chips, ideally what I wanted to do was put that little tail, the tail number right here, but I had to shrink down the size of the font so small that you couldn't even read it. And so this is what I came up with. I made a strip of all of the planes that I'm going to use for this game. And what I did was, as you can see, I have all of my carrier division A, or carrier division 1, and this is all the Akagi, which is the flagship. So A1, and this is Fighter 101, which I actually have a sample made out already. So here is A1. So I know that this goes with the Akagi. I flip it over. Is plane 101. That's Fighter 1. Okay? So that will be underneath the chip. Well, so that will be underneath the sculpt here. All right? Now, I haven't put all these on, and don't worry, this video is not going to, you be sitting here watching me put these stickers and labels on. I'm just explaining the process. So, like I said, I would have preferred to have all that on the front, but it was too small. And really, in this game, you don't have to know the plane number. But what you do have to know is what chip goes with what carrier. And so this tells me this chip goes with the Akagi. That's the main thing. The stuff on the back is just kind of geeking out a little bit. So that's that. Now, the other thing about the plane numbers, well, let me show you my strip. So first of all, this is the Akagi numbers I'm going to use. These are the Kaga numbers I'm going to use. As you can see, A2 is the Kaga, and you see the 11111, the 100. Sorry about that. The 100s are the fighters. The 200s are the dive bombers, and the 300s are the torpedo bombers. So, sorry, got out of focus there. And then my other strip is carrier division B. So this is B1. Thanks, Moose. This is a B1, which is the Soryu. And I have the fighters, dive bombers, and that. And of course, I have the strips for B2. I have the B2. And then the last one is C for the Zuiho. All right. Oops. I actually made a mistake on that. I'm gonna have to redo that one. Or just print 2 more. And where did I get these numbers? Very simple. If I looked on here, and it says here that the Akagi is going to have two fighters in this C zone and 2 fighters in that C zone. So a total of 4 fighters. So essentially, I went with fighter 101, 102, 103, 104. That's how I did that. And then the attack bomber, which is the torpedo bomber, there are 3 of them, and they're in C zone 12. And so what I did was, there's the torpedo bomber, which is designated by a 3 at the beginning. So that's torpedo bomber 1, 301, 302, 303. Now, why do I have 304 and 305? Real simple. I'll show you down this here. As we know, some of the Japanese planes were painted in that Nakajima green. And like I tried to find research to find like, well, how many of the greens did they have? How many of the grays did they have? Did certain carriers have certain? And there's too much detail to actually figure out. So I'm essentially making a torpedo bomber in the ash gray and in the Nakajima green. That way I have options throughout the game. And I'm making a set of chips for each one. Okay? So I'm making a set of chips for each one. So these are the 3 torpedo bombers that will be labeled for the ash gray torpedo bomber. And then I have a set of, well, I'm painting some more chips in there, but I have my set of green chips that will be used for, oh, I've already got one labeled actually. My green chip that will be used, okay, there's A1, and we can see that 306. All right, so that's how I'm designating my chips for the carriers. Now, as far as the numbers I used, I just went in numerical order. I tried to find out like what planes were at Midway, what planes were at Pearl Harbor, and it's just too much information to get. So like right here, I have Akagi plane or fighter 102. Now, what I don't know is, I mean, that plane might have been shot down over Pearl, right? Or Coral Sea. I don't know that. And too much information. But what I tried to do is simplify it for gameplay. So what I have is all of the Akagi planes. Yeah, I thought about that pagan white, but to be historically accurate, they all had red font. So, but I might experiment with that a little bit. It doesn't show up on the camera that great, but like I'm sitting here like this looking at it, I can tell what it is. But good point. But back to my number selections. I wanted it to be easy for gameplay. So for the Akagi, I use the 0 to 10. So 100 to 104. The dive bombers, 201 to 203. And then the torpedo bombers, 300 and up. All right. When I go to the Kaga, I did in the 10s. So 110, 111, right? 111, 112. Torpedo bombers, 311, 312, 313. Okay? So I know that all the Akagi planes are going to be 0 to 9. I know all the Kaga planes will be 11 to 19, right? And then when I continue on, whoops. Oh, and I skipped a number. Ah, no wonder. Oh, well, it still works out. So Carrier Division B, this is the Soryu. I used 31 to 34, which I should have used the 20s, but it doesn't really matter because as long as they're not labeled the same. For the dive bombers, 31 to 39, and for the torpedo bombers, I'm sorry. Wait, 32. Yeah, same thing. All of the Soryus are 31 to 39. And it's a matter, is it 131 fighter? Is it 231 dive bomber? Or is it 331 torpedo bomber? So I accidentally skipped the 2s. So, but it doesn't matter. It still works. So here is a Carrier Division B, which is 2 stripes, which is the Hiryu. And so I use the 40. So basically from 40 to 49 will be all of the Hiryu planes. So 141 to 149 is fighter. 241 to 249 is dive bomber. 341 to 349 is torpedo bomber. And then the last one is the GiJoe, which I messed up. This should be a 1, not a 2, because 2 means a vowel. Oh, wait a minute. Yes. See, it should be fighters. I should have 2 fighters. I messed up, and that should be 2. I'm sorry, that should be 151. So I'll just have to make 2 more labels. Not a big deal. So 151 to 159 will be the GiJoe fighters. 351 to 359 will be the GiJoe, what you call it? Torpedo bombers. So, yeah, so that's basically it, guys. Again, this video is not gonna be about you watching me put the stickers on the chips, but I'm just kind of explaining the process I'm doing. Again, the chip on top is just, or the sculpt on top is just eye candy. And that's how I'm going to label the chips, and I'll get that done hopefully today. And then after that, I will do the Americans. Americans is a little bit trickier. I'm having to do a lot of research, and there's some confusion there because they didn't want folks knowing what the carriers were. So they had just kind of random, it seems like random stuff. White, blue, blue with or black with a dash, black with no dash. T dash something or just the number. It's so the research on that is a little bit trickier, but I'm working through that. So thanks for watching. Again, just continue on in my Midway, my HPG Midway customization. And thanks, guys. Just kind of stay tuned for more customizations on Midway. Thanks, Pagan. Thanks, Moose, and whoever else. Thanks for showing up and watching. Appreciate it, guys.